Welcome back to Starting Blocks TV. I'm Branson,
Did you
Wright.
feel that? No. I'm Chuck Yarborough, and here we are, another edition of SBTV.
Well, let's get right to the poll. There's many reasons why the Indians should try to get Jim Thome, but why shouldn't they get him? Now, especially since you buried him, that could be a reason, right?
Well, that could be a reason, but I really don't think there's any reason not to get him. I mean, and he's also good earthquake insurance.
Well, forget about us. Let's go to Bill Livingston. Bill, what is the reason why the Tribe shouldn't go after Jim Thome?
Well, he bats from the wrong side of the plate from what they need, and he's 40, and he's has not had a productive year. I think he's been hurt some, but by and large, I think it's pretty much a win-win thing. I would go after him too. There are objections to it though. From looking at the poll, one of the choices is they need pitching more, and one of them is they need a right-handed bat. I think he would excite the fan base. I think most people are willing to not harbor the grudges they used to hold against him, although some always will. But, this is always a fan base trembling on the edge of disinterest, and it would perk it up and provide more revenue for a serious run next year. They already have that because they're gonna draw a lot more people than they had projected at the start of the season, but it would help more. And it would kind of keep interest alive in the team, I think. I believe they are close to done. I'm not going to call them done yet, but they can't win up there, and Detroit can't win here. So that's a push with the remaining games.
Okay. Let me ask you another question related to the Tribe. Is Chris Perez on his way to being the next Jose Mesa in terms of fan affection?
Well, he was never the closer Jose Mesa was. Jose Mesa was probably the only overpowering closer I can remember them having in my quarter century and more here. And that made his unwillingness to throw his fastball in Game 7 more disheartening, because it's like he didn't have confidence in himself and went down without throwing his best pitch. He reminds me more of Borowski and Wickman and guys like that who were just walking heart attacks on the mound and didn't have overwhelming stuff. When he was hitting all those guys the other night, it was like one of the worst ungluings I've ever seen, and that's the Ernie Camacho pitch,
Not to be confused with Hector.
Or Junior.
Okay.
Livy, we know the NFL is all about the safety, right, Chuck?
Yeah,
They're
right.
all about the safety. They had this new kickoff rule, which means more touchbacks. What do you think of this rule?
I hate it. I hate the rule in high school that if it goes into the end zone at all, it can't be run out. I understand safety concerns, but the kickoff, first of all, field position is a big part of football, and the kickoff return is a big part of field position. And guys are going to be running them out from 8 and 9 yards deep because they're so frustrated by this thing. They get the kickoff from the 35. College kids kick off from the 30, so they're giving the best kickers from the college game 5 more yards. So, they put 75% of them into the end zone. And with the number of domes, and I think it's 6, but I could be wrong. There might be some that I've missed. That teams play in. Those are ideal kicking conditions. So you're just going to have nothing but teams starting with long fields on the 20-yard line. They should have. If it goes into the end zone with so many touchbacks now, if they want to keep the safety going, they ought to put the ball to 25 anyway.
That's a good
idea.
idea.
And it all brings up the only column I think I ever wrote about a kicker when it wasn't about a field goal. Ohio State played up at Minnesota in the Metrodome then. They weren't in their new stadium. And the Gophers had Lawrence Maroney and had a good team. And it was a shootout game, 42-31, I think, or 41-31 Ohio State. Anyway, to me, the difference in that game was Mike Nugent, in perfect kicking conditions in the Dome, left Minnesota with touchbacks almost all day long. They were always starting at their 20. Ohio State had Teddy Ginn Jr. They were starting near the 50, on the other side of the 50. I think he might have run something back for a touchdown, and maybe it was a punt, not a kickoff. But Minnesota had to gain a zillion more yards because of the weapon of Nugent's leg. And that stuck in my mind, especially in domes, and especially with this kickoff rule. It's just pointless to think that there's going to be many kickoffs, and that's an exciting play. I know it's the highest speed collisions, but I think that's something that is an integral part of the game, philosophically and in an excitement sense.
Okay. You mentioned Ohio State, and I kind of want to go there with one more question. Former quarterback for the Ohio State team is now with the Raiders. So, is that a perfect fit for Terrell Pryor and the Raiders?
We got
Real
about
quick.
10 seconds, Levy.
Oh, he'll be in there with all the other knuckleheads and with Crazy Al. Absolutely. He's the next Jamarcus Russell at quarterback. But, I've always thought he's a great athletic package. I think he could help the team, but probably not at quarterback.
Okay, great. Libby, thank you very much for spending time with us. We'll
All
talk
right.
to you again.
All right, see you, Levy. What you said, but a bunch of the crazies, like it's a
The
problem?
other knuckleheads, kind of like
What, it's
here.
an issue?
Anyway, so what's going on?
All right, we got a lot going on. Indians, Seattle, no TV.
Oh, that's too bad.
So old-fashioned way, you listen to it on the radio. You have golf, you have kickball. That's it for our show. We'll be back again with another edition of SB.
TV.
Of course it's